Hi guys, my name is Helly and I'm a real life living vampire. Now we're going to talk about what that is today. It's not Dracula, it's not Lestat, it's not whatever this thing is. Real life living vampirism is a totally different thing than fictional vampires, and we're going to talk about it. So if you haven't already Googled what a real life living vampire is, we're going to break it down for you, and it's really not that deep. I think a lot of people see living vampire and they think, wow, that must be some wicked, cruel, tyrannical, all like the bad words, right? Everybody like associates being a vampire with something negative because a lot of times people will think, oh, you're an energy vampire, you suck the energy out of the room and you don't even ask, bro. I ask, and I encourage you to ask too, because you want to know where your energy is coming from, for one, and for two, it's the polite thing to do. So in my path of being a psychic vampire, I take energy. There are other paths. There are sanguine, which they do take blood, but there is a safe way to go about that. We won't get into that in this video. Leave a comment below if you want me to get into sanguinism. But today I'm just going to be talking about my path, which is energy and being a psychic vampire. So, usually what will happen for me is people will come up to me and they'll be like, Helly, I'm super anxious or I'm bouncing off the walls. Can you take some of that energy? Now, if you're familiar with meditating, Reiki, things like that, it's pretty much the same thing. I'll usually take them. We'll put on some like nice calming music. I'll light candles or incense depending on their preference. And if they're okay with it, I'll put my hand on their chest and I'll just envision sucking that energy. And that's why we're called psychic vampires, is because we're sucking energy. So I do that. They come away feeling really calm. I come away feeling really energized, because a little fun fact about living vampires is that we're not producing the energy on our own. We're getting it from other people. So when I was a kid and I didn't know what a vampire was other than I want to suck your blood, I would get so drained, so grouchy from, being away from people. And then once I was around a group of people, I would always, get that hype and I would always crave that again and again and again. It wasn't much later in life until I realized what a vampire was. But when I did do that, I didn't know what I was doing. And I think a lot of people who are vampires that might have clicked on this video, you may be dealing with like feeling bad about taking energy without asking permission. I would encourage you to let that go and forgive yourselves, because when you were a child or a teenager or a 20-something or however old you were before you realized that vampirism was a thing, don't beat yourself up for it. You didn't know better, and now you do. You can't change the past, but you can do better. So always make sure you ask people before you take their energy. Unless you're taking ambient energy, which is energy that's around somebody but not on someone. Again, we'll get to that in another video, but there are different kinds of energies. So if you're trying to do a deep feeding off of someone, please make sure you ask permission for your sake and for their sake. It's important. I personally am of the belief that you do not become a vampire. You're not bitten on the neck by a bat and then suddenly you become a vampire. You're not turned by a mysterious vampire sire. If someone bites you, or if you're bitten by a bat, please seek medical help immediately. That just tastes better out of a ghost cup. Being a real life living vampire is something you're born with. You're either a vampire or you're not. Now, I know this is going to sound like a controversial statement because there are those Etsy witches who have, $100 price tags on their spell work, saying they can turn you into a vampire. No. No. But it is kind of become a popular belief that you can just become one, and I disagree with that. And again, if you want, I can do a separate video on that, but this is just bare basics, so stick with me. my story is not that much different than a lot of people who realize that they're living vampires. I always knew that there was something different going on in there. I just didn't know what it was. And there are a couple truths to the myths about vampires. The sun is not my friend. And a lot of other living vampires have publicly stated that they really struggle in the sun. I personally get very dizzy and very weak and have to do a couple energy feedings before I can feel like my normal self again. The crucifix thing is fine. I'm actually quite fond of looking at crucifixes. But we do need something that we don't have, which for me, it's energy. For Dracula, it's blood. But yeah, there are many different paths of a living vampire. Mine is the psychic vampire, but there are other things that you can do in vampirism. There is specific types of magic you can do if you want to go down that path. There's dream work, there's sanguinism, there's all kinds of stuff, and I would love to get into that with you guys if you're interested. But basically, being a real life living vampire is just taking energy. It's not this wicked, evil, cruel thing where I'm standing in a thrall and trying to, take a virgin's blood. It's not me worshiping the devil. It's not all of that. I think that a lot of people who don't understand what living vampirism is complicate it. It's not a complicated thing. It's just a spiritual path with energy work. You can do more with it. I'm personally an eclectic vampire, so I practice witchcraft. I worship deities. There's a lot going on with me, but vampirism itself, at its bare minimum, is energy work. And like I said, of course, there are other paths you can take within that path, just like with anything else, but it is often overcomplicated. And at the bare minimum, it's just energy work, bro. So yeah, I'm a living vampire. Got any questions? Leave them below, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye!